The Ben Heck Show is brought to you by Element 14, the electronic design community and online store built for engineers and hobbyists alike. Join now and browse the store at element14.com.
Benjamin J. Heckendorn was a mild-mannered graphic artist until he was bitten by the electronics bug. Now, every week he takes on new projects, shares tips and tricks, and answers your viewer questions on The Ben Heck Show.
Hello and welcome back to the Ben Heck Show. Today we have a project that you can recreate at home for additional fun this holiday season. It's going to be a naughty and nice meter with a needle that goes from naughty to nice, and it's Bluetooth controlled so the parent can operate it remotely with a cell phone, just in time for Santa. Jesse Robinson, who's been on the show before, is going to come in and help us with some of the code. Let's get started. But first, the news. Today in Ben News, it's the holiday season, so I'm getting a lot of orders for single-handed controllers. The idea came about years ago. Basically, if a person doesn't have use of both of their hands, they can't play a controller normally. So what I do with the single-handed controllers is I move all the controls to one side, and then you move the other stick with your leg like that. And there's also, of course, a right-handed version. Here's how we're going to do the project. I'll start by making a naughty and nice box that has a needle driven by a servo that goes back and forth from naughty to nice. I'll make up some graphics that look just like the box for the Android app. My friend Jesse Robinson is going to get the electronics working for the Bluetooth integration, and then he'll also use my graphics to make an app to control this that looks just like the box. Let's get started. Now it's time to make the actual enclosure for the naughty and nice meter. You will need a hot glue gun, a printout of the meter that looks just like the app, a T-square, some X-acto knives, use them carefully, and some spray adhesive, along with, of course, foam core. Sharp knives are safer than dull knives because it's not like, ugh, cut, oops. Sharp knife will just glide along and you'll be all right. Happy little clouds. So it's actually a lot like the app. You make things in layers and then you sandwich them together to make your final cohesive image. So these prints were actually made from the graphics from the app. I just blew them up a little bit, took them to FedEx Kinko's and printed them out. One thing that's important to realize when you're printing objects is if you print something from your program that's smaller than the size of a piece of paper, in this case 11 by 17, if it fits within the size of a piece of paper and you print it, the object you print will actually be actual size. So you can use that to make templates that are fairly accurate as well if you want to make mounting holes or templates for your project. So make your thing fit in a piece of paper, print it out. Even your home printer, it will be accurate. A home printer is like a little CNC machine. So it's like I'm building a three-dimensional app. There's an app for that. Here's the layers of the app. That's when it goes together. It doesn't make that sound though. Okay. When you pull a knife, you're exerting a lot of pressure. The reason you're exerting that pressure is because you're pulling it through material. However, that material is not there. See, the force of the knife goes through you. So always make sure that if the knife slips loose, it's not going to hit anything. Your fingers or your work, because you don't want to muck up your work either. And instead of doing one strong pass, I'm doing two lighter passes. I worked at a place once and a lot of machinery, a lot of equipment, and actually one of the worst injuries we had was someone got themselves with an X-acto knife. He went to the doctor. He's like, "Doctor, will I be able to play piano after my X-acto knife accident surgery?" And the doctor's like, yes. He's like, "Good, because I couldn't before." We're going to put some plastic behind this, so it basically seals the app so the kids can't play with the numbers, so to speak, with this knife. So even if you don't have a bunch of equipment, fancy saws, you know, it's just good to know that you can cut materials like this with a knife. So basically, okay, so let's say you're making something with a piece of plastic at home, but you don't have a fancy bandsaw or a radial saw to cut it. Well, you could just make a whole bunch of nice little slits over and over again with a knife, and then eventually you can break the plastic. And it'll break pretty good. At least I hope it does. That's probably enough. Let's see. Nothing over there. Oh, wow, it's like a computer cut it. Or a robot from the future. Yeah, yeah. Who needs a laser? Sell that on eBay. This is bird safety glass. The glass is permanently scratched and dirty, so no birds will fly through it and, you know, die. So I'm really thinking about the birds. Hot glue gun. Don't leave home without it. Always make extra prints. If you don't, you'll need them. If you do, you won't need them. So always make extras so you won't need them. It's Murphy's Law. Or as I like to call it, applied superstition. Well, I need my umbrella. If I take my umbrella, it won't rain. So if I don't want it to rain, I'll take my umbrella. Works every time, usually. This is just a standard little servo. It's not continuous, which means it goes from 0 to 90 to 180. But it'll be perfect for our use because we only need 180 degrees of motion because it's only half a circle. So I'm going to mount this manually, and then we will attach the needle. As much as I like hot glue, I just can't. I'm not going to hot glue the servo in place. I'm going to screw it in place. I'm not a monster. And then some thread lock to keep the nuts in place. Santa approved. We have this little actuator arm that goes onto the servo. What we're going to do next is make a little acrylic needle that will attach to this, and then it'll move it back and forth. So I laser cut out a needle. I was going to do this by hand, but I forgot to take the file to the printer. So once I attach the servo mount to the needle, then I can just pop the needle right onto the servo. It'll be quite easy, unless it isn't. No, it will be. This is a tap. A tap puts threads into your hole so they will match up with the screws. Usually you can just kind of cram the screws through and it'll make a thread for you. But with acrylic, you want to be careful because you can split the acrylic. So by tapping the holes first, the screws will fit perfectly. It just, you know, takes a little bit longer. It's one more step, but it's better than breaking this and having to do 2 steps over again. Now that I have the front 2 pieces made, I'm just going to make a side frame that'll allow it to stand up on its own, and then we'll work on the electronics. Ho, ho, ho. Santa uses non-toxic foam in his workshop. Last, they had to deal with the tools of their time. Trying to shrink your own computer to the size of a Raspberry Pi? Not easy. Accessing Raspberry Pi tips, tools, accessories, discussions, and more on the Element 14 community? much easier. Discover all the ways we're building an easier experience at element14.com/evolution. Now that we have the box made, it's time to do the electronics. And for that, we've brought in Jesse Robinson. You may remember him from the robot luggage episode. So Jesse, we drew up this diagram of the entire project. Let's go through each step for our audience.
Okay.
What's this?
This is our phone. We're running a specific Android app to talk to the Bluetooth module bidirectional for sending and receiving the position. And that goes to the MSP430 Launchpad board through UART.
So basically the Bluetooth is acting like a wireless COM port.
Correct.
Where someone might hook up their Arduino via USB cable to their computer, we're doing that wirelessly with Bluetooth.
Correct.
All right, so then MSP430 looks like it's driving a servo down here?
Yes.
Okay. So what software are we going to use to program the MSP430?
There's a software package called Energia, and it looks
Sounds like an energy bar.
It looks just like the Arduino interface, except it's red, and you can use a lot of the same libraries.
Oh, cool. So that'll give us a convenient way to program this because we'll need the serial communication and the servo object.
Yes.
All right, so the user moves the slider left and right to position the needle. It sends the data wirelessly to the Bluetooth module, which connects to MSP430, which then interprets that number and moves the servo accordingly.
Correct. And the MSP430 also sends back position packets so the app knows where to put its needle and adjust its bar if necessary, just in case there's missed packets or when you first connect, you want to know where it actually is.
So we should talk about the communication packets next.
Yes.
This is the information interchange drawn out in optical visual format. So here's the app. Now, so the app is sending this out. Can you describe this code to us, Jesse?
Correct. It sends out the positions. There's a start character, there's 2 characters for position, and then an end character, so then we could grab start or end if we wanted.
Okay, and there's always going to be 4 digits,
Yes.
4 bytes in ASCII, which is American Symbolic Code for Information Interchange, I think. I think that's it. Who cares? Anyway, then the MSP430 also returns a code, and what is the code it returns?
It returns its position that it sees so they can sync up together. And the app sends, every time you change the slide bar position, it will send out a new position. And then whenever it receives a position, if you're not touching the slide bar, it always adjusts the needle. If you're not touching the slide bar, it adjusts that too, because we don't want to fight you while you're changing values.
Right.
And also, just for a little redundancy, if it receives a value of the needle when your finger's on here and they don't match up, it'll immediately send out the correct value for where the slide bar is, just in case there's missed packets. For this project, we decided to use the TI Launchpad. It's an MSP430 based device. I decided we should use that because I had a class with it recently and it's Arduino compatible with specific software and it's only like $4.30, so it's a nice cheap alternative. So that's our core, and then we're using the Roving Networks Bluetooth module RN41, which we also used on the pot stir episode. And then this is just our wall wart for 5 volts.
All right, Jesse, so what do we need to hook up here?
All right, well, everything's hooked up. We got our Bluetooth, we got our power. We just need to hook up the servo here.
So tell us about this app you put together with the candy cane graphics.
All right, basically, this is the thing sending the Bluetooth. It sends out signals and receives signals back from the MSP430. And actually, this needle is showing the position it receives back, and the slide bar is showing what it's sending. And if it's talking, they should be in sync like they are.
So it should be a pretty close match.
Correct.
So it's like, you see what your kids are doing in the other room, like, are they picking up their toys? Oh, they're picking up their toys, you're doing good. So the whole thing is like basically, tricking little kids. Let's just admit it.
Which is the goal of many holidays.
Yeah. Coming up next, the Easter Bunny meter. Well, there you go. It's a meter so your kids can see if they're being naughty or nice, and you can change it secretly in the background. Thanks, Jesse, for writing that code in the app. So there you go. Just need a servo, microcontroller, Bluetooth, and a standard cell phone. Here's Santa's meter. Are you being naughty or nice?
I'm being nice.
Okay, can you give me a nice hug? Look! Santa saw you do it! Santa sees how nice you are! Yay! Give me 5.
I'm doing it!
My rave today is about the resurgence in pinball. A few years ago, only one company was making games, Stern. Now there's Stern, Jersey Jack, the guys in Michigan doing Predator, John Papaduke Zidware, and even more overseas. It's great to see the hobby thriving, growing, but not dying. However, my rant is about pinball prices. As the hobby grows more popular, games become more in demand, and thus prices go up and only up. Many games are now worth more than they cost new back in the 90s, and what was an affordable collection 10 years ago might be worth 100 grand today. That's great for longtime owners who have 100 grand now sitting in their basement, but it makes it increasingly harder for new people to come into the hobby. So with the good comes the bad. Today's viewer question comes from Daniel, who asks, what programs do you use for your CNC machine? I use something called PartWorks, which is a shop-bought rebranded version of the popular V-Carve. This takes vector files and creates tool paths. Then I use a shop-bought program on my laptop, which takes those files and drives the machine. That's all the time we have for today. Before we go, I want to thank my friends at Engadget for hanging out with us while we filmed the show. Thanks! In our next episode, we're going to have a full tutorial on using Arduino. You've seen me use them in many of my projects, and next time I'll give you the info you need to start incorporating them into your projects, and all the tips and tricks I've learned along the way. We'll see you then. Stay tuned at element14.com/TBHS, where you can join the discussion, suggest builds for the show, and even have a chance to win upcoming builds. Remember, you can always email build ideas to benheck@element14.com. Thanks for watching.